Each step echoed softly, a rhythmic cadence that matched the quickening beat of Elin's heart. Years of searching, whispered legends, and cryptic maps had led them here, the lost sanctuary of the Loom of Fate. The mystical artifact believed to dictate the very threads of magic that wove through their world. Elin's fingers brushed the worn leather of her satchel, feeling the fragment of the legendary fabric tucked safely inside the same fabric that had first awakened her latent abilities and set her on this path. Myra's presence beside her was a steady comfort. The rogue tailor's keen eyes flicked to every shadow, alert and unyielding. Finally, they reached the cavern mouth, a yawning archway carved into smooth stone, veined with shimmering minerals that caught the faint light and scattered it like stars across the walls. A gentle hum emanated from within, a resonance that felt alive, vibrating through the soles of their boots and humming beneath their skin. "This is it," Elin whispered, stepping forward. The chamber inside was vast, its domed ceiling lost in darkness. At its center stood the Loom, an enormous construct of interlaced threads that shimmered with an ethereal blue light. It pulsed softly, as if breathing, each filament weaving and unwinding in an endless dance. Myra reached out hesitantly, fingertips grazing the edge of the Loom's frame. "It's alive," she breathed. Elin nodded, her eyes wide with awe. "Not just alive, it's the source, the heart of fabric magic itself." As they approached, a figure began to coalesce from the luminous threads, a guardian formed from light and shadow, its form shifting like a living tapestry. Its eyes, pools of radiant silver, regarded them with ancient wisdom. "Welcome, child of the Threadwrights," it intoned, voice resonating like 1,000 harmonized strings. "You who seek the truth of the weave, step forth." Elin swallowed her apprehension, feeling the weight of generations pressing upon her. She stepped closer, her hand reaching out to touch the Loom's shimmering surface. The moment her fingers met the threads, a warmth spread through her, a pulse syncing with her own heartbeat. Visions unfurled before her eyes, the birth of fabric magic, the weaving of destinies, the interconnectedness of all living things through the Loom's infinite tapestry. She saw the rise and fall of guilds, the hidden bloodlines, the sacrifices and betrayals, all threads woven into the grand design. "Fabric magic is not merely a tool," the Guardian explained. "It is a living force, a reflection of the balance between creation and destruction, order and chaos." Elin felt the profound weight of this revelation settle inside her. The Loom was not a relic to be controlled, but a sentient nexus that required stewardship and respect. When she withdrew her hand, the energy lingered, a newfound clarity coursing through her veins. "I understand now," she said softly. "My role is not to dominate the weave, but to guide it, to ensure its harmony." The Guardian nodded, then began to dissolve back into the Loom's threads, its final words lingering in the air. "The future is yours to weave, Elin of the Threadwrights. Choose your stitches wisely." Emerging from the cavern, the first light of dawn spilled across the horizon, golden threads weaving through the sky. Elin and Myra stood side by side, the weight of the past lifted, replaced by the boundless potential of a new dawn. "The kingdom will never be the same," Myra said, her voice tinged with awe. Elin smiled, feeling the pulse of the Loom still thrumming within her. "No, it will be better, because now we understand the true fabric of our world." Together, they turned toward the rising sun, ready to weave the future. The journey to the lost Loom was not merely a quest for an artifact, but a pilgrimage to the very soul of fabric magic. As Elin had learned throughout her trials, magic here was more than threads and stitches. It was the living breath of the world itself, and she was its newest guardian. Though the road ahead promised challenges and changes, Elin embraced her destiny with reverence, hope, and an unshakable resolve to protect the legacy of the Threadwrights for generations to come. The threads of her story, once frayed and torn, now shimmered with endless possibility, woven tightly into the ever-evolving tapestry of the Kingdom of Threads. The air was crisp and charged with an electric anticipation, as if the very atmosphere sensed the magnitude of the day. Elin stood on the marble steps of the newly constructed fabric hall, the heart of the kingdom's transformed magical world. Before her gathered a sea of faces, tailors, apprentices, citizens, and former guild members, alike each bearing the marks of struggle and hope. The banners fluttered above, stitched from the patches of once opposing guild colors, now woven into a magnificent tapestry that symbolized unity. The very fabric danced with magic, shimmering softly in the morning light. Elin's cloak billowed behind her, a patchwork of enchanted textiles gathered from across the kingdom, each piece a story of rebellion, alliance, and renewal. Her amber eyes scanned the crowd, meeting gazes filled with expectation. Master Joran stood nearby, his aged hands folded calmly, the intricate sigils on his embroidered robe reflecting the dawn's glow. Aris and Leora flanked Elin, representing the new coalition, those from the heart of Loomhaven, and those from the fringes, where forbidden magics once thrived in secret. With a clear, steady voice, Elin began. Today, we weave a new destiny. The threads that once divided us, the guilds, their secrets, their monopolized, are unraveling. In their place, we build a kingdom where fabric magic is not a tool of control, but a shared gift, nurtured and grown by all. The crowd erupted in cheers, the sound cascading through the city like a wave of hope. The fabric hall's enormous doors swung open, revealing a grand chamber dominated by a loom-shaped table, its surface alive with glowing threads that shifted and intertwined with a life of their own. Around it sat the council of Guildhouse's former guild leaders, alongside representatives from fringe communities, their garments a vibrant blend of old and new, traditional sigils entwined with fresh patterns symbolizing collaboration. Master Joran rose, his voice steady but warm. This council will govern not with the iron grip of old, but with the open hands of shared responsibility. Together, we will craft laws and practices that honor our histories while embracing the future. Elin moved among the council members as discussions unfolded, each voice heard, each concern addressed. The loom before them pulsed with magical energy, threads representing laws, ethics, and shared resources weaving themselves into a living document. The process was slow, deliberate, yet brimming with promise. Old rivalries softened under the weight of mutual purpose. Later, Elin wandered into a bustling workshop where apprentices from diverse backgrounds practiced fabric magic side by side. The rhythmic click of needles, the soft hum of enchantments, and the vibrant colors of woven cloth filled the room. A young apprentice, her fingers deftly embroidering glowing runes, looked up and smiled. It feels different now, doesn't it? Like the magic belongs to all of us. Elin nodded, warmth spreading through her chest. Yes, this is the kingdom we fought for, a place where every thread matters. As twilight draped the city in hues of lavender and gold, Elin strolled through the streets, now alive with vibrant life. Market stalls displayed fabrics that shimmered with newly shared magics. Street performers wove illusions of light and color. Children chased each other, their laughter mingling with the soft rustle of enchanted cloth. The scent of dyes, fresh cotton, and the earthiness of natural fibers hung in the air, a sensory tapestry as rich as the city itself. Reaching a quiet plaza, Elin paused, gazing at the horizon where Loomhaven spires pierced the sky. The journey had been long and fraught with sacrifice, but the kingdom stood, transformed, united, free, and vibrant. The fabric of society had been rewoven, stronger and more beautiful for its diverse threads. Yet, even as hope blossomed, Elin knew the work was far from over. The new guild houses would face challenges' old ambitions, unforeseen conflicts, the delicate balance of power. But for now, beneath the stars beginning to twinkle like scattered gems on the city's tapestry, she allowed herself a moment of quiet fulfillment. The kingdom of threads was no longer a dream, but a living, breathing reality, and its story was just beginning. Tomorrow, she whispered to the night sky, we weave anew. Each stroke of the quill imprinted the painstaking truths of a world reborn, a tapestry woven not of cloth but of memory, courage, and hard-won freedom. Her hand moved steadily, guided by the weight of the past and the promise of the future. Around her, the scent of parchment and aged leather mingled with the faint aroma of lavender sachets tucked between stacks of ancient tomes. The room was silent save for the whisper of quill scraping paper and the occasional crackle from the hearth, a sanctuary where history was no longer a tool of oppression but a beacon of enlightenment. Elin paused, her dark eyes tracing over the words she had just transcribed. The binding legacy was more than a chronicle. It was a manifesto, a declaration that the stories of the Threadwrights and the Revolution would never again be silenced or twisted by power-hungry guilds. With every chapter, she unraveled the complex web of deceit spun by the old regime and laid bare the true essence of fabric magic. An art meant to unite and empower, not to dominate and enslave. Master Harrow entered quietly, his presence commanding yet gentle. His long white beard brushed against the embroidered sigils on his robes as he approached. "You have done well, Elin," he said, his voice a mixture of pride and relief. "This work will echo through generations." Elin looked up, meeting his eyes. "But will they listen?" she whispered. "They will," he assured her, placing a hand on her shoulder. "The truth, once woven into the world's fabric, cannot be unraveled so easily." Later, in the cozy warmth of the scriptorium, Lysa, the eager apprentice, read aloud passages from the freshly completed manuscript. Her voice, bright and trembling with excitement, carried the stories of betrayal, sacrifice, and hope. Talon, the former guild enforcer whose loyalty had shifted with the tides of change, listened intently, his usual stoicism softened by the power of the words. "It's more than history," Lysa said breathlessly after finishing a passage. "It's a guide, a way forward." Elin nodded, feeling the weight of responsibility settle comfortably on her shoulders. "We must ensure it reaches every corner of the kingdom," she said, "so that no one forgets what was sacrificed and what was gained." The days that followed were a whirlwind of preparation and dissemination. Copies of the binding legacy were carefully scribed, bound, and sent to guild houses, schools, and independent tailors alike. Discussions sparked around the new truths unveiled, and debates blossomed in marketplaces and council chambers. The book became a living document, inspiring not just reflection, but action. Finally, the day came when Elin stood before a gathering of fabric mages from across the land. The air thrummed with anticipation beneath banners, woven in vibrant patterns, symbolizing unity and renewal, threads of gold intertwined with silver, crimson, and deep indigo. Holding the binding legacy aloft, Elin's voice rang clear and strong. "This is our story," she declared. "Not of a single guild or ruler, but of all who dare to dream of a world where fabric magic is shared, respected, and nurtured. Let this legacy bind us together, not as masters and subjects, but as weavers of a destiny we create together. Applause erupted like a tide, hands reaching out to touch the manuscript reverently. Faces shone with hope, determination, and the quiet joy of new beginnings. In that moment the kingdom felt whole, its fractured past sewn firmly into the fabric of a brighter future. Yet, even as celebrations blossomed, Elin's heart remained vigilant. The binding legacy was a powerful tool, but it was only the first stitch in an ongoing weave. The true test would be in the years to come, to guard against the shadows of old tyrannies, and to nurture the fragile harmony they had fought so hard to create. As twilight bathed the city in hues of violet and rose, Elin looked out over Loomhaven from the high balcony of the newly established guildhouse of Shared Threads. The city pulsed with life and magic, vibrant and free. She whispered a quiet vow to the night sky, to protect this legacy, to honor those who came before, and to guide those yet to come. The binding legacy was not merely a book, it was a living promise, and Elin would carry it forward, a thread unbroken in the ever-evolving tapestry of the Kingdom of Threads. But as the stars began to shimmer, a distant shadow moved beyond the city's edge, a reminder that even the strongest fabric can fray, and that vigilance must never waver. At the center of the hall, atop the ancient pedestal once belonging to the original Threadwrights, stood Elin, her patchwork cloak fluttering gently in the cool draught that whispered through the chamber. Around her, a gathered assembly of tailors, mages, and allies from across the kingdom watched with rapt attention. Taking a deep breath, Elin lifted her hands, the delicate fabrics of her cloak rustling like the murmur of a distant loom. By the legacy of the Threadwrights, by the threads that bind us all, I vow to protect the balance of fabric magic, she declared, her voice steady and clear, to guard the harmony that sustains our world against those who would tear it asunder. A hush fell over the crowd, the weight of her promise settling into the very air. Mira, standing close by, nodded approvingly, her silver-streaked hair catching the light as she stepped forward to place a hand on Elin's shoulder. Your vow reignites the strength we need, she said softly, but the path ahead grows ever more perilous. Elin met her gaze, the fire of determination bright in her eyes. Then we prepare. We must be vigilant, for shadows gather beyond our sight. Later, in the quiet sanctuary of the Guildhouse's study, Elin and Myra sat before a sprawling tapestry draped across the wall, a complex weave of sigils and enchanted threads that depicted the history and structure of fabric magic itself. Their fingers moved in tandem, tracing luminous patterns that pulsed faintly beneath their touch. Look here, Mira murmured, pointing to a subtle distortion in the weaver dark tangle of threads that seemed to writhe unnaturally. This is no ordinary corruption. It's a new kind of magic, one that feeds on the very essence of fabric itself. Elin's brow furrowed. Who would dare to weave such darkness? Myra shook her head. That remains to be seen, but it grows and it spreads. The gravity of the discovery settled heavily upon them, underscoring the precariousness of the balance Elin had vowed to protect. Outside the protective walls of the Guildhouse, in the shadowed alleys winding beneath Loomhaven's grand spires, a figure cloaked in fabrics that seemed to drink in the scant light moved with silent grace. The Whisperer, a name whispered in fear and suspicion, wove strands of corrupted cloth with deft fingers, the threads pulsing with a sinister life of their own. Each stitch was a calculated act of subversion, a strand sewn to unravel the fragile peace and harmony Elin sought to uphold. Back within the Guildhouse, under the glow of enchanted lanterns, Jorin, the envoy from a distant fringe faction, unfurled a small bundle of fabric before Elin. The threads shimmered with an otherworldly iridescence. Delicate and strong, a symbol of the fragile alliance bridging diverse magics and communities. This thread, Joran explained quietly, is woven from shadow and light, embodying the balance we must strive for. Our people stand ready to support your cause, but trust is still fragile. Elin regarded the thread thoughtfully, the first snowflakes of winter beginning to drift outside the window, blanketing the city in a pristine hush. Then let it be the bond that holds us, she said, tying the thread carefully into her cloak. Together, we will face whatever threats arise. As the evening deepened, Elin found a moment to stand alone by the window, gazing out over Loomhaven. The city lay quiet beneath the snowfall, a tapestry of lights and shadows woven together in delicate balance. Her vow echoed in her heart, a steady refrain amidst the encroaching darkness. The challenges ahead were daunting, the threats unseen yet palpably real, but Elin's resolve was unwavering. The Threadmaker's promise was made, not just to her people, but to the very fabric of their world. And as the first stars pierced the winter sky, the threads of fate began to weave a new pattern, one that would test the limits of magic, trust, and sacrifice in the kingdom of Loomhaven. We stand at the edge of a new weaving, she whispered to the night, and I will not let the threads unravel. Her voice was soft, but it carried the weight of destiny, a beacon for those who would follow her into the uncertain dawn. The promise was made. The future awaited, and the loom of fate was already turning. Elin stood at the forefront, her gaze sweeping over the sea of faces, tailors, apprentices, and fabric mages from every corner of the kingdom and beyond. The air vibrated with possibility, each bolt of enchanted cloth hanging from the rafters, a testament to the boundless creativity now flourishing under her guidance. Welcome, Elin began, her voice steady yet warm, to a new chapter in our shared Legotia, future woven not by the hands of a few, but by the many. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd as Myra stepped forward, her silver-streaked hair catching the light. Draped in her living robe, which shimmered and shifted in color and texture, she lifted her hands with practiced grace. Today, Myra announced, I will share a weaving technique that melds the ancient art with the pulse of innovation. A garment that can change its guise, reflecting the wearer's will and the world's endless flux. She reached for a loom set up at the side, fingers flying deftly as threads of glimmering silk and enchanted fibers wove together. The fabric transformed before their eyes, shifting from deep midnight blue to fiery crimson, then soft moss green, as if alive. Applause broke out, punctuated by gasps of wonder. Elin smiled, the sight filling her with renewed purpose. This was the fruit of breaking down the old guild barriers, fostering a culture where knowledge was shared freely and innovation was nurtured without fear. Later, in a sunlit chamber lined with ancient scrolls and modern fabric samples, Elin and Joran pored over texts that spoke of the earliest Threadwright's experiments. The scholar's fingers traced faded sigils as he compared them to the intricate patterns woven into contemporary cloth. There's more here than just magic, Joran mused. It's philosophy, a language of connection and transformation. Elin nodded, her mind racing with possibilities. If we can harness that understanding, we might weave not just fabric, but harmony among our people. Their discussion was interrupted by the entrance of Talira, the young apprentice whose bright eyes held the spark of the future. Clad in a cloak woven with faintly glowing threads, she approached, shyly but with pride. I've been experimenting, she said, voice trembling with excitement. This cloakit responds to the wearer's emotions, amplifying their courage or calming their fears. The council elders exchanged impressed glances as Talira demonstrated. the garments subtly brightening as she took a deep breath, steadying herself. Encouraging smiles blossomed, and Elin felt a swell of hope. Here was the next generation, ready to carry forward the legacy, blending magic with heart and innovation. Yet, amid the triumph, Elin was acutely aware of the dissent simmering beneath the surface. Traditionalists clung to the old ways, wary of the rapid changes that threatened their long-held privileges. The path forward would require vigilance, diplomacy, and unwavering commitment to the ideals of inclusion and progress. As the day waned and the hall emptied, Elin lingered among the vibrant fabrics and echoes of laughter and debate. The kingdom was awakening to a new dawn, woven from threads of creativity, unity, and hope. The future was theirs to craft, stitch by stitch, stitch by stitch. With a final glance at the glowing tapestry before her, Elin whispered, "Let this be the weave that binds us all." The journey was far from over, but the foundations were laid. In the heart of the kingdom, fabric magic blossomed anew, vibrant and free, an ever-evolving tapestry of dreams.